The story begins with Sojiro Sakagami, a 16-year-old high school student exhausted as he climbs a long, steep hill. He grumbles quietly, annoyed that his school is built in such an inconvenient place. Rumor has it the founder loved high places, but Sojiro just thinks that was a dumb idea. As he struggles upward, he figures he'll be fashionably late. Suddenly, a girl races past him on a bicycle. He's shocked that anyone could ride a bike up such a steep hill with such ease. She stops ahead, looks back, and casually calls out to him. She guesses he's a second year and tells him to hop on the bike. They're both going to be late. Sojiro hesitates, but then climbs on. As they ride, he apologizes and promises to repay her somehow. She waves it off, saying it's no big deal, and proudly adds she's as strong as an ox. Her confidence catches him off guard, but he doesn't ask questions. Instead, he notices her skirt. It's shorter than the school standard. He remembers that third years sometimes modify their uniforms like that. Curious how she knew his year, he's about to ask, but she brushes the question aside. He checks his phone and sees they're already late. Once they reach the school, he buys her a soda from the vending machine as thanks. She smiles, accepts it, and apologizes again for not getting there sooner. Sojiro reassures her. It's fine, even if they only catch the second period. He watches her carefully, wondering if she's a third year or maybe a transfer student. Then, out of the blue, she brushes her bangs aside and shyly asks if he has any friends. The question throws him off, but he eventually says he has a few. She doesn't say much in response. Instead, she says she's good at divination. That surprises him. The more she talks, the more mysterious she seems. With a chuckle, she explains how her fortune-telling often scares people away. Her friends leave after she reads their fortunes, like it's a curse. She shares a story about someone who asked for a compatibility reading. The result was so bad that she gave weird advice. That person never came back. Sojiro is shocked. He asks why she would say something like that and expect people to stay. She changes the topic and offers to tell his fortune. She asks if anything's bothering him. When he doesn't answer, she teases that he just wants her to leave. Sojiro laughs and awkwardly admits he wants a girlfriend, an older one. Her face shifts into something he can't describe. Confused? Horrified? He tries to laugh it off with a joke, but it doesn't land. Frustrated, he asks if it's really that wrong to be interested in someone older. Instead of answering, she rolls her bangs back and asks to see his hand. He gives it to her, thinking maybe she doesn't dislike him after all. Then his eyes drift to her half-unbuttoned shirt. But before he can get lost in thought, she looks at his palm and smiles. "As I thought," she says, "you're destined to be with someone younger than you." She adds confidently that it won't be long before he gets a girlfriend, and she'll be a kuhai, a younger student. Sojiro is confused. He doesn't feel like he connects with younger girls. Before he can respond, she tells him it's already been decided, then walks away. She says he's welcome to visit the divination club anytime. As she leaves, Sojiro watches her go, thinking about how strange but interesting she is. He realizes he never even asked for her name. Meanwhile, the girl, Inuki Asuka, arrives in her own classroom. The teacher scolds her for being late on the first day. She blames it on a flat bike tire, classic excuse, but her mind stays on Sojiro and his wish for an older girlfriend. She remembers the fortune she read and decides to keep her own year level a secret from him, for now. Even though she tries to brush it off, she finds herself blushing when she thinks about his reactions. She tells herself it doesn't bother her, but it clearly does. Later, Sojiro decides to find the divination club and meet that strange girl again. He stares at the club board. It's a mess and doesn't look official at all. Still, he steps inside. Inside, he finds Mizuki chewing on bread. She turns to him with a neutral face. "Can I eat in here?" he asks. She swallows and snaps, "Who the hell are you?" Shocked, Sojiro stares at her. "You don't remember me." After a moment, she smirks and says she was just joking. Across the room, Sojiro is overwhelmed with emotion. Almost tearing up, he pulls out a chair and sits down across from Mizuki, asking if she always eats lunch alone. Mizuki shrugs and says she has no friends. So yeah, this is normal. As Sojiro settles in front of her, she narrows her eyes. "Why are you sitting there?" she asks sharply. He casually replies, "I just wanted to have lunch with my beloved senpai, that's all." Mizuki smirks. "Smooth talker, aren't you?" Then she slightly teases, "Not to brag, but I am adorable." Sojiro raises an eyebrow. "It's kind of weird to compliment yourself, isn't it?" Mizuki suddenly stands up, grabs him by the chin and leans in. "Say that again to my face if you dare." Panicked, Sojiro throws up his hands. Okay. You're undeniably cute," he blurts out. Mizuki blushes for a second, but regains her composure. She pulls out a crystal ball, announcing it's time for a special divination. Sojiro watches, thinking maybe she's just shy about compliments. But then he notices how awkwardly she's holding the ball. He silently predicts something bad is going to happen. Sure enough, It slips from her hands and shatters on the floor. Mizuki stares at the broken pieces in shock, her expression dark. Instead of crying, she dramatically points at Sojiro. "This is your fate," she declares, then mutters that she might as well go home. But before she leaves, she spins around, grabs his neck, and shouts, "It's pathetic that you can't change your own fate. My reading is absolute." Sojiro, flustered, yells, "Wait, are you trying to break my neck too?" He then blurts out, "I can feel your body pressed against me," which makes the moment even more chaotic. Mizuki freezes, realizing what he just said. Then, to his shock, she hugs him tighter with a dreamy look, dying in a cute girl's arms. That's every guy's dream, right? Sojiro mentally disagrees. "Nope, not me." He shouts that they should clean up instead. Mizuki lets go and agrees, saying the advisor will be mad if they leave the mess. As Sojiro watches her pick up glass with her bare hands, he mutters that she must eat gorillas for breakfast to be that strong. Unbothered, Mizuki kneels and continues cleaning. When she tries to grab a sharp shard, Sojiro grabs her hand and pulls it away. "Don't do reckless stuff like that," he says seriously. "This is the guy's job." Moved by his sincerity, Mizuki blushes. After a pause, she quietly agrees and turns away to hide her face. "Well, at least you're taking responsibility now. Thanks." While helping clean up, Sojiro accidentally cuts himself. Mizuki grabs his hand to check the injury. Then, without warning, she makes his bloody thumb touch a piece of paper. "What are you doing?" Sojiro cries. "I'm using your blood to make a seal for the club," she says calmly. He freaks out. "Are you insane?" She sighs, saying, "This is just the kind of club I run." Surprisingly, Sojiro responds, "You know what? I don't hate it." Mizuki grins and agrees. Sojiro silently wonders how he's ended up in such a bizarre situation. Before he can think more, she grabs his hand again and licks his wound. "Magic healing," she says casually, walking toward the door. "I'll go submit our club application." Sojiro stands there, dumbfounded. What kind of rabbit hole have I fallen into? Meanwhile, Mizuki walks down the hall, cheeks red and giddy. She's thrilled she got his thumbprint. The next day, Sojiro is getting ready for school. The TV plays in the background. It's a perfect day to go out. Now it's time for Namazu-senpai's fortune corner. Hearing that, Sojiro mutters, "I still don't know my senpai's name." Just then, someone scolds him from behind. "Can't you at least put your dirty clothes in the basket?" a girl says. He groans and agrees, asking her to tone down the yelling this early. She snaps back, "I'll stop when you grow up." Sojiro claims he's the definition of maturity. The news continues in the background as he heads to school. At the divination club room, Sojiro drops into a chair and tells his senpai to start with the basics. "Like your name." Mizuki, holding a box with a strange object inside, dodges the question. "Why? What do you want to know? My shoe size." "If you're offering, I'd prefer something else," Sojiro jokes. She stands up but slips slightly. Sojiro glances at her shoes and suddenly notices. They're first-year slippers. He freezes. "Wait, but these are first-year slippers." Mizuki panics. I didn't know we had a door over there." "What are you talking about?" Sojiro asks, confused. Scrambling for an excuse, she blurts out, "I knew they were first-year slippers. I just like the color." Sojiro stares at her, stunned. "You're a first year?" Mizuki sighs and finally admits, "I'm a repeater." Sojiro leaps up and apologizes, not sure what to say. "You repeated a whole year?" Mizuki smiles faintly, but it fades when Sojiro mutters, That explains why you're kind of lacking." Back in the club room, Mizuki, nearly in tears, snaps that repeating a year has nothing to do with not having friends, and she finds Sojiro's comment insulting. Sojiro panics. He realizes he said the wrong thing. Desperate to change the subject, he reminds her she still hasn't told him her name. Mizuki waves it off and says her name is Pai. Sojiro blinks. "You really say the most random things." She smirks and jokes that there's nothing to say about her. Not her name, not even her race. Sojiro stares at her, shocked. "Wait, what do you mean by race? Are you even human?" Mizuki grins, replying, "My name is Senpai, my race is unknown." Frustrated, Sojiro wonders if she's really okay saying things that weird. In response, Mizuki waves the club application papers in his face and tells him to just join already. He takes them reluctantly, but instead of filling them out, he suddenly grabs her hand. Her eyes widen in shock, and she quickly pulls her hand back. "Did you bring an umbrella today?" she asks. "No," Sojiro says. "The weather forecast said it'd be sunny." Mizuki twists her hair between her fingers and tells him to stop by the shoe rack after school. She has something for him. Sojiro looks out the window, wondering what she's up to. Suddenly, smack. She hits him on the head, telling him to stop mumbling and to follow her. Startled, he asks what she meant by something. Smirking, Mizuki says it's an umbrella, with her included. Sojiro freezes, staring in disbelief. This girl's an idiot, he thinks. She opens the umbrella, inviting him to share it with her, even offering to go wherever he wants. Embarrassed, he steps under it, trying not to let his thoughts get ahead of him. He asks why she didn't bike to school today. Blushing, Mizuki mumbles that senpai takes the bus when it rains. Sojiro jokes that she sounds like a snake when he calls her senpai, so naturally he keeps calling her that, just to annoy her. At the bus stop, Mizuki asks if he's taking the bus too. He nods, saying he'll ride it partway home. She holds out her hand. "Give me the umbrella back." He hands it over. She smiles and says, "See you at school tomorrow," and starts to walk away. Sojiro blinks. "Wait, don't forget your stop." Mizuki glances back, still smiling. "Don't catch a cold." Then she walks off, leaving Sojiro stunned. He stands there, feeling completely lost. What was that? He wonders. He even thought about seeing her off like some kind of gentleman, but now he's annoyed with himself. Meanwhile, Mizuki reflects on her lie, that she's a high school repeater. She can't believe Sojiro actually believed it. Why is she working so hard to keep up the act? She sighs, remembering that Sojiro said he likes older girls. That's why she lied. She didn't want him to think less of her. Mizuki blushes in frustration as she remembers eating lunch together and sharing the umbrella on the way home. The memory sends a chill down her spine. As the sun rises, she quietly folds up her umbrella and decides, "I'll stay as senpai. For now." Ubayashi confidently walks up to Sojiro, saying he'll figure out his personality. He shows Sojiro some pictures and asks what kind of girl he likes. After a short pause, Sojiro picks option C with a small smile. Ubayashi dramatically announces that Sojiro likes girls with big boobs. Embarrassed, Sojiro doesn't know what to say. Just then, Mizuki walks by. She gently tugs on Sojiro's shirt to get his attention. He turns to her and asks if she's going to a different classroom, but Mizuki stays quiet, staring at him. Curious, Ubayashi asks if she's Sojiro's friend. Sojiro explains she's a third-year student and introduces them. Ubayashi, being polite, reaches out to shake her hand, but Mizuki hides behind Sojiro. He looks back at her, confused. Ubayashi jokes, asking if she thinks he's suspicious. Sojiro lightly says Mizuki is like a small animal, trying to make her feel more comfortable. Ubayashi offers her candy, saying it's not weird. Mizuki finally speaks, her voice soft but clear, and says no to the candy. Both boys are surprised. Ubayashi quickly offers a deal. If Mizuki becomes his friend, he'll tell her a secret about Sojiro. Sojiro immediately says no, but Mizuki peeks out, curious. Ubayashi leans closer and whispers that Sojiro likes big boobs. Mizuki narrows her eyes and asks Sojiro if it's true. Caught off guard, he nervously says yes. To his surprise, Mizuki proudly says hers are big too, waiting to see his reaction. When asked more, he shyly admits he likes them. Instead of getting mad, Mizuki smiles and says he's honest. Not wanting to be left out, Ubayashi brags about himself and tries to give Mizuki candy again, but she politely refuses. Suddenly, Sojiro remembers Mizuki is a fortune teller. He looks at Ubayashi, and Mizuki confirms her readings are usually accurate. Ubayashi gets excited. Sojiro thinks for a moment. Her readings often involve actions. Are they affected by what you do? He remembers Mizuki gives readings through touch, but hasn't seen her do a palm reading. Mizuki quietly tells Ubayashi to show his hand. He does, and after looking at it, she suddenly says, "You're going to die soon." Both boys freeze. Ubayashi stares at Sojiro and asks if he's really going to die. Mizuki jokes about carving his lifeline with a chisel. Then she tells Sojiro he dropped his notebook. Flustered, he tries to get her to go back to fortune-telling, but Mizuki leans in with a serious look. Panicking, he blurts out that he was thinking about her chest, then quickly adds he meant she often leaves her shirt buttons undone. Mizuki looks down, then back up, realizing he made things worse. Sojiro goes pale. Mizuki gets even closer and whispers that she'll do it in the club room. Shocked, Sojiro jumps back and nervously asks what she means. Just then, the school bell rings. Mizuki walks off, telling him not to forget to come to the club room later, giving him a playful nickname as she leaves. Sojiro watches her, confused. Turning back to Ubayashi, he says they should go. Ubayashi, still thinking about the fortune, gives Sojiro a weird nickname. Annoyed, Sojiro tells him to stop. He's thinking. Then he reminds Ubayashi they have to turn in their essays. They both suddenly remember. Ubayashi panics, asking what's going to happen. Sojiro sighs and says his grades are going to fail. Ubayashi gasps. Mizuki's fortune was right. Trying to calm him down, Sojiro says he was also surprised at first. In the club room, Mizuki reads Sohiro's palm, explaining the meaning of the lines. Sohiro doesn't seem impressed and says he's been thinking about something. Her readings don't always match up. Then he suddenly asks if he can read her palm. Mizuki shrugs and agrees. Sojiro takes her hand, looks at it carefully, and says she has many sixth sense lines. Mizuki raises an eyebrow and says he knows a lot about fortune-telling. Sojiro admits he just looked it up online. Smirking, he says he might be better than her soon. Mizuki quickly pulls her hand back, smiling mischievously, and suggests they play a betting game instead. The scene changes to Sojiro's sister, Ren, who comes home and sees a pile of bread. She asks their mom about it. Their mom says Sojiro bought it. Ren asks where he is, and her mom says he's in the bath. She adds that Sojiro said they could eat the bread if they wanted. Later, Sojiro comes out and asks where the bread is. Ren is confused and asks why he's making a big deal. It's too early for lunch or dinner. He seriously asks if she knows what happened to the bread. Ren, looking nervous, lies and says she doesn't know. Then she asks why he's acting weird about bread. Sojiro gives her a sharp look and asks why she's being so polite all of a sudden. Then it hits him. The meaning of Mizuki's fortune and their bet. Ren looks confused at first, then realizes it's part of a fortune game. The story jumps back to an earlier moment, where Mizuki is explaining the rules of their game. The weather doesn't matter. What matters is that the winner will be the one who correctly guesses what will happen tomorrow. Sojiro asks what the loser has to do. Mizuki cleverly says that the loser has to do whatever the winner says. Sojiro is surprised and asks if she really means anything. Mizuki confidently says yes, and even lets him decide what they should bet on. They agree to guess what Sojiro will eat for lunch tomorrow. He mentions that he usually cooks it himself. Mizuki is amused. She didn't expect him to pick something so simple. She playfully pokes his forehead, says she's already won, and reveals that tomorrow's lunch will be rice. Sojiro panics. Rice is exactly what he was planning, even though he had bought a bunch of bread. Back in the present, Ren tries to calm him down, pointing out that they still have rice. But Sojiro, clearly upset, questions her seriousness and starts to tear up. To comfort him, Ren offers to scrub his back when he gets home. He gives her a suspicious glare and asks if she ate all the bread. Ren quickly shakes her head and says she doesn't know what he's talking about. He accuses her of lying, saying she doesn't normally talk like that. Ren, trying to cover her tracks, says it doesn't matter, because she loves her brother. Sojiro mumbles that it's not surprising at all. She pouts, insisting she didn't take the bread and would never lie about it. Sojiro sighs, pats her head, and tells her not to worry. She immediately tells him to stop, calling him weird. Then Sojiro says that because she took the bread, all they'll have for lunch tomorrow is rice. At school the next day, Sojiro grumpily tells Mizuki that she was right, and she won. Mizuki smiles proudly and says she already knew. She adds that now he can't claim he'll ever beat her at fortune-telling. Sojiro rolls his eyes and asks if that's what she was so worried about. Then Mizuki reminds him it's time for his punishment. Sojiro quickly cuts in and says she can't ask for anything weird. She laughs and tells him all she wants is for him to officially join her club, and she won't take no for an answer. Sojiro, not bothered, takes the form from her. Curious, she asks what he would have made her do if she had lost. He hesitates, then says he was hoping she'd tell him her real name. He sighs, saying his sister ruined his chance to win and find out the truth. Touched by his honesty, Mizuki says she'll tell him her name anyway. Sojiro's eyes widen, and he gets emotional, but she still won't tell him directly. She rolls her eyes, calls him annoying, then grabs his face, pulls him closer, and says her name is Mizuki Isuka, and that she'll be in his care from now on. Sojiro, stunned, asks if she just called him by name, and calls her Mizuki-senpai. She corrects him and says he should call her Asuka-senpai instead. Sojiro stubbornly keeps calling her Mizuki-senpai. They go back and forth until Mizuki, frustrated, punches him in the face. He groans in pain, hides his face, and mutters that he's not done yet. Then, building his courage, he softly calls her Asuka. Mizuki freezes, her face turning red. She stammers, asking if it's not too early for that. Sojiro dramatically collapses to the floor, leaving her shocked. She quickly runs over and asks if he's okay, but Sojiro, still on the floor, casually waves her off and says he's fine. Later, an old teacher notices Sojiro and asks if he's looking for a fortune-telling club advisor. He says that's unusual, since the club is kind of strange. Leaning in, he quietly tells Sojiro to talk to Tsukimi-sensei. Just as he says the name, someone nearby turns. Tsukimi herself. She looks at Sojiro and asks if he wants her to teach him. With a smirk, she walks over and sarcastically wonders if he's here to complain about her messy hair again. The teacher bluntly says he does have a problem with Tsukimi, her hair, clothes, and work ethic. Basically everything. But he brushes it off and says Sojiro's here for her, not him. Watching Tsukimi, Sojiro thinks she's strange. She notices him staring and gives him a questioning look. He hands her a club registration form and explains why he's there. Tsukimi briefly glances at the form and leads him outside. As they walk, she casually asks what this is all about. Sojiro, a bit confused, realizes she hasn't really understood yet. Then it clicks. She gets that he's here to join. With a playful wink, she jokes, "You didn't come all this way to propose, did you?" Then adds she wouldn't blame him. She knows she's attractive. Flustered, Sojiro thinks she weirdly reminds him of Senpai. Tsukimi teases him, asking if he joined because of Asuka's body. He quickly denies it, but she just laughs, spins around, and teasingly calls him Aoni. When he corrects her, she turns back, a little embarrassed but still insists on the question. Sojiro wonders what's wrong with this school. Tsukimi smirks, saying no high schooler joins such a strange club unless they have a hidden reason. Sojiro hesitates, then explains that yes, the club was weird at first, but the mystery behind it drew him in. Even if Senpai were a guy, he'd still have joined. It just seems fun. Tsukimi taps her fingers, thinking. She admits she hadn't planned on recruiting today. Just then, someone nearby murmurs Sojiro's name, distracting him. Seizing the moment, Tsukimi snatches the form, opens the door, and announces that he's officially registered. With a small smile, she says that despite how she seems, Asuka does have a weakness, and she promises to support Sojiro. But she warns him, don't open the cabinet in the club room. Sojiro looks skeptical. Senpai, who's always so confident, has a weakness? Just then, he spots her frantically trying to catch a butterfly. When she sees him, she panics and yells for help. The butterfly's too close. Shockingly, she's waving a wooden sword at it. The butterfly lands on the blade, and she jumps straight into Sojiro's arms. Flustered, he tries to say how awkward this is, and in that moment, Sojiro realizes his reason for joining the club has changed. Mizuki trembles, repeating that the butterfly is going to kill her. Meanwhile, Sojiro, overwhelmed, admits to himself that he doesn't hate this. But isn't this kind of bad? Trying to act cool, he carefully catches the butterfly and tosses it outside. Smirking, he asks, "Did I look cool?" Mizuki replies bluntly, "You did, until you said that line." Still confused, Sojiro asks if she's really scared of bugs. Mizuki shakes her head and says she even talks to them on her days off. Suddenly, Tsukimi appears behind them and sarcastically says that sounds fun. Her tone shifts as she places a hand on Mizuki's head and asks if she messed with the cabinet. Mizuki freaks out and denies it, but Tsukimi narrows her eyes and points at the wooden sword. Sojiro watches Mizuki. She looks really nervous. Tsukimi turns to him and asks if he disobeyed her too. He quickly denies it. Sighing, Tsukimi tells Mizuki to return the furniture. Mizuki agrees and grabs boxes to tidy up. As she walks toward a table, she spots another butterfly. Her eyes go wide with fear, and she freaks out again. Tsukimi yells at Sojiro to stop her. He rushes forward and grabs Mizuki before she can go wild. Watching them, Tsukimi laughs and asks if his talk with the butterfly went well. Red-faced, Mizuki demands to be let go. Tsukimi smirks and asks if they were bitten. She's seen it happen before. Shocked, Sojiro asks what she means. Bitten by a butterfly? Tsukimi explains that someone was affected the last time the cabinet was opened, glancing knowingly at Mizuki. Just then, Sojiro notices a weird blister forming on his hand. Panicked, he shows them. Tsukimi, completely unfazed, just tells him to sleep it off. Sojiro shouts in disbelief. Mizuki pats his shoulder and thanks him for helping her. But Sojiro yells that he doesn't want to die. After that, poor Sojiro develops a serious fear of bugs and spends the next 2 days stuck in bed from the mystery blister. Before going to school, Sojiro listened to the news. It said Sagittarius would have bad luck today. He sighed and said, "That sucks." Just then, Mizuki came out of her room, yawning. He closed the door and told her he was leaving. As soon as he stepped outside, his foot slipped and he slammed into a tree. His lemon tea spilled all over his head. Later, when he got to school, Mizuki noticed how messy he looked. She asked if he was having a bad day. Sojiro sighed and said, "Everyone has days like this." He admitted he looked terrible. Mizuki grabbed his tie, asked what was wrong with his clothes, and tried to fix them. Sojiro casually said he just had bad luck today. But when Mizuki didn't seem impressed, he quickly apologized for sounding negative. As Mizuki walked off, Sojiro noticed something strange. His tie was missing. He spotted it around Mizuki's neck. She simply said that helping people was her club's top goal. While fixing his hair, she teased him about his jeans. In the end, Sojiro was left shocked, comparing his hair to a pile of fertilizer. He yelled, wondering what she was doing to it. Mizuki smirked and said a little makeover didn't hurt during times like this. Sojiro agreed, thinking maybe she was right. Just then, something hit him hard on the head. He shouted in pain. Some boys by a window apologized and asked if anyone got hurt. Sojiro told them he was fine, but they laughed and teased him about his weird hairstyle. Sojiro clenched the ball in anger, upset by his bad luck. Mizuki looked at him and said maybe the makeover wasn't enough. She smirked, and Sojiro asked what else she had in mind. A moment later, loud, excited sounds came from the room. Sojiro stepped out, now dressed like a punk straight from a host club. Mizuki burst into laughter at his new look. On the other side, Sojiro thought Mizuki was just playing with him. Through her laughs, Mizuki told him that earlier she had seen a kitten. When she went near it, lots of funny things had happened. She kept laughing, and even though Sojiro felt embarrassed, he was happy she was having fun. After a while, Mizuki calmed down and acted normal again. Sojiro asked if he could give her a makeover too. She agreed. Once she sat down, he started styling her hair. After a bit, she took off her jacket and asked him what he was doing. He said he was just taking a photo of his work. As he looked at her, she suddenly pulled him closer. Sojiro stared in shock. She said they should take a photo together. He agreed and took out his phone. As he tried to snap the picture, she tapped his hand, making things feel awkward. Worried, he asked if she was okay. She said she was fine. After taking the picture, Sojiro looked at it and thought he might use it as his phone wallpaper. He smiled at how relaxed they looked. Mizuki said she was going to lock up. He offered to close the windows for her. As he did, he said he thought his bad luck was finally over. Mizuki looked at him and asked if that meant she was the one who made him happy. Sojiro froze, wondering if she was proposing to him. Then Mizuki asked straight out if he was proposing to her. Shocked, he slipped on a ball. Mizuki caught him, and his head landed against her chest. In a panic, Sojiro realized he was too quick to think his bad luck had ended. Mizuki smirked and playfully asked if she brought him joy. Locking eyes with her, Sojiro quietly admitted that yes, she did. He knew deep down that he could have avoided this mess if he had really tried. Meanwhile, Mizuki felt her heart racing and wondered why it was beating so fast. Blushing, she stared at him. Sojiro awkwardly asked when she planned to let him go. His voice was shaky. The next day, Mizuki showed Sojiro her new swimsuit and asked for his opinion, but all he could focus on was how she looked in it. She explained that it was a hand-me-down and felt a bit loose. In a burst of awkwardness, Sojiro blurted out, "Are they fake?" She shot him a sharp look, wondering what he meant. Flustered, Sojiro quickly said he was talking about the swimsuit's age and fit, not her chest. With a playful smile, Mizuki confirmed that her chest was very real. She warned him that if the swimsuit slipped, things could get awkward. Totally flustered, Sojiro stammered that he would introduce himself first, then realized what he had just said. As soon as the words left his mouth, he froze in regret. Trying to cover it up, he quickly changed the subject, looking around and asking if this was the shop she mentioned. Mizuki nodded and told him to think of it as an out-of-school activity for the divination club. As Sojiro sat down to wait, Mizuki started trying on swimsuits. After a while, she stepped out wearing one and confidently asked his opinion. Keeping a straight face, he said it looked bold. Mizuki paused, confused, and asked him to explain. When he repeated himself, she huffed and went back inside to change. She tried on several more swimsuits, asking what he thought each time, but every time Sojiro just said the same word, bold. Getting annoyed, Mizuki clenched her fists. Sensing her frustration, Sojiro quickly apologized, admitting he was just joking. Inside, he thought about how great she looked in all the swimsuits and how cute she seemed every time. Expecting her to get mad, he braced himself, but instead Mizuki calmly adjusted his collar. She then said she would buy all of the swimsuits. As he watched her, Sojiro noticed how happy she seemed whenever he called her cute. When she came back, he asked why she didn't buy the school swimsuit like she had planned. Mizuki looked confused. He joked that her memory must be tiny, like 5 megabytes, if she had forgotten already. Embarrassed, she admitted she had never planned to go to the beach before because she had no one to go with. As they walked off together, Mizuki suddenly turned around with a big smile. She proudly told Sojiro that she had won this year, saying their summer at Hadad would be even more exciting. Sojiro smiled back, saying it looked like a busy summer was ahead for her. Mizuki playfully asked if he'd be up for more shopping, and he happily agreed, saying it would be fun. They visited many shops, bought clothes and accessories, and even took a photo together while drinking bubble tea. At the end of the day, Mizuki thanked him for coming along. Caught in the moment, Sojiro said it felt like they'd been on an after-school date, but Mizuki quickly teased him, reminding him it was just a club activity. With a sigh, he joked that they looked more like a couple dating for 3 months. Mizuki laughed and said there was nothing wrong with that. Then she asked if he was free afterward, since they still had some time. Sojiro smiled and reminded her she had already taken him on a date. Checking his phone, he noticed he had to make dinner soon, so he would need to go home shortly. Out of nowhere, Mizuki complained that her hands hurt from carrying all the shopping bags. She stopped for a second, then her face brightened with an idea. Curious, Sojiro asked what was on her mind. With a smile, she said her house had cockroaches and asked if he could help her get rid of them. Sojiro paused and asked if she really wanted him to come over. He joked about using a cockroach to tell fortunes, making her glare at him as she demanded to know if he was making fun of her. Flustered, he stuttered that going to her house didn't seem like a good idea. It felt strange in many ways. Mizuki, confused, asked what was so bad about it. Panicking, he insisted it was fine and told himself to just accept it. As Mizuki let out a deep sigh, Sojiro finally agreed. He looked at her, trying to clear his anxious thoughts, gently tapping his face to stay focused. He reminded himself he could handle it. Watching him, Mizuki joked that he sometimes really scared her. Later, she asked her mom when dinner would be ready, only to get scolded for calling her brother like that. Her mom reassured her that she trusted Sojiro to behave properly since he was also a student. At Mizuki's apartment, Sojiro noticed the room looked untouched. It felt odd that she invited him over and then went to take a shower. While putting away groceries, he found the fridge completely empty. That made him wonder if she really lived alone. He remembered Mizuki claiming she lived by herself and cooked simple meals. She had gone to take a bath. When she came out of the shower, they argued about her actions before she went to change. She reminded him he'd already seen her in a swimsuit before. He mumbled that she always overreacted about everything and stepped away. From inside, Mizuki heard clattering in the kitchen and called out to ask what he was doing. Casually, Sojiro answered that he had started cooking dinner. Even though he hesitated at first, his body moved by instinct. Mizuki shrugged and said she didn't mind. She added that he could be surprisingly confident sometimes. Looking confused, Sojiro met her eyes as she patted him on the back, teasing him about showing off. Annoyed, he muttered under his breath that she was a pain and asked where the plates were. Mizuki grabbed them and said she bought those plates just for him. Sojiro stared at her. Surprised, she was 2 years older than him. Shaking off the thought, he told her to start her homework. Mizuki grinned and sarcastically asked if he was her mom now. Ignoring her, Sojiro kept cooking. But Mizuki stayed nearby, watching him closely. Her constant staring annoyed him, and he finally told her she was acting like a child. He patted her head and asked if she wanted to help. She gave him a sharp look and warned him to stop treating her like a kid, or she'd hurt him. He told her to cut the tofu. Mizuki got a knife, and Sojiro nervously watched her. Seeing how she held it, he quickly stopped her and reminded her to curl her fingers to stay safe. Gently taking her hand, he showed her the right way. Their eyes met briefly before Mizuki grumbled that he really was bossy. Sojiro apologized and said he just wanted her to be safe. With a small grin, Mizuki teased that right now he was scarier than the knife. Suddenly, the rice cooker beeped. Sojiro turned to it and announced that the rice was ready. He was amazed at how fast modern cookers worked. Mizuki smiled softly but didn't say anything. Once the food was done, Sojiro served it and told her to eat. They ate together, and Mizuki lit up after her first bite. She said the food was delicious. Sojiro casually mentioned he often cooked at home, saying it was no big deal. But Mizuki kept praising his skills, making him smile with relief. He was happy she enjoyed it. He complimented her tofu cutting, and Mizuki proudly said it was perfect because she was awesome. Sojiro chuckled. As he looked outside, he noticed it had gotten late. He realized he might have stayed too long and said he should leave. Mizuki offered her spare futon if he wanted to stay, but he kindly said no. He needed to get home. She looked confused and asked if she'd said something wrong. Sojiro reassured her she hadn't and said he would still leave even if she wanted him to stay. Mizuki pointed out that she didn't have any umbrellas for him. He brushed it off, saying it wasn't raining. But the moment he opened the door, a heavy rain poured down. He stood there, shocked. Mizuki chuckled with a playful smirk and told him, jokingly serious, that there was no way he was leaving now. Sojiro turned to her, looking uneasy as she firmly shut the door behind him. The rain kept pouring outside. He asked Mizuki for an umbrella, but she refused, saying no umbrella could handle this storm. He thought about calling his dad, but his father wouldn't be home tonight. Determined, Sojiro said he'd leave anyway, but Mizuki softly called his name, making him stop. She admitted it had been a long time since she shared a meal with someone. She asked him to stay a little longer. Hesitating, Sojiro agreed. They sat together and watched TV as the rain fell. Even as his thoughts wandered, Sojiro found himself wondering, does Mizuki like me? But he quickly pushed the idea away, annoyed by how she ignored personal space. Trying to set some boundaries, he brought up the importance of proper behavior. He warned her that when a girl casually jumps on a guy, people might think badly of her. Mizuki didn't seem to care. Instead, she admired her reflection in the dark TV screen. "A cute girl always stares back at me," she said. Sojiro groaned in frustration. "Do you even understand what it means to invite a guy over like this?" he asked, but Mizuki didn't answer. Instead, she leaned against him, making him question her feelings all over again. Just as he felt the urge to hold her, Mizuki commented on the show. She pointed out how a similar moment led to an awkward situation. Startled, Sojiro quickly pulled away. Thankful he didn't act on his emotions. Then, suddenly, lightning struck, and the power went out. Mizuki grabbed onto him tightly, her voice shaky. "I'm scared," she admitted. Confused, Sojiro replied sarcastically, "Thanks for letting me know." But Mizuki still wouldn't let go. Frustrated, Sojiro reminded her, "You knew this was going to happen." But Mizuki just said, "Knowing it doesn't make it any easier to go through." As he pressed her for more details about her vision, she suddenly pulled him down with her, and they both collapsed onto the floor. Mizuki let out a soft laugh and teased, "We always end up like this, huh?" Exasperated, Sojiro asked, "Just how far can you see into the future?" Mizuki answered mysteriously, "I know everything, but I don't look too far ahead." She paused. "I only knew up to the blackout." Sojiro became serious. "Then why do you go through all this?" "Just for me." But before he could finish the question, Mizuki gently ran her fingers through his hair. "I do whatever I want," she said. "Nothing more, nothing less." Sojiro hesitated, then asked quietly, "What if I was having inappropriate thoughts about you?" Mizuki's cheeks turned red. She nervously asked, "What do you mean?" His heart pounded. He couldn't deny how he felt anymore. Mizuki leaned in, curious. "So, what do you plan to do next?" Sojiro stared at her, completely lost in thought, but no answer came to his lips. That night, Sojiro awakened his inner courage and ran away from the situation, even though it was pouring rain. The next day, Sojiro felt sluggish all day. After class, Ibayashi came up to him and said everyone else had already gone home. He also reminded Sojiro that he needed to stop by the club room. Without saying a word, Sojiro headed there, which made Ibayashi worried. Sojiro still wasn't sure if Mizuki really liked him or not. The truth was, she had invited him over yesterday and pulled that kind of stunt, which made it seem like she had planned to go further with him. If they really had done something intimate, they would have graduated from being innocent teenagers overnight. But Sojiro wasn't ready for that. He was old-fashioned and wanted to wait. When he entered the club room, Mizuki suddenly pounced on him. But after realizing it was Sojiro, she let go, saying she thought he was a client. She then said she forgot something at his house the night before and started tugging at his jacket. Seeing her strip made Sojiro shriek, remembering yesterday's events. Last time he ran away, but he wasn't sure he could resist if it happened again. Seeing his reaction, Mizuki apologized. She admitted she went too far and took advantage of his kindness, but claimed it was necessary. Sojiro thought maybe his feelings were just messy and tried to explain himself, but Mizuki quickly shoved him into the locker, telling him to stay there for the time being. Not long after, Ibayashi entered the room. He said he had heard the club was a place where you could ask for advice. He brought up how Sojiro had been acting strangely today. He also hinted that he knew Mizuki's secret, that she was actually younger than both of them. Then he said despite Sojiro's flaws, he was still his friend and he wouldn't forgive Mizuki if she was the reason Sojiro was suffering. Mizuki laughed at this, commenting on what a good friend Sojiro had. She reassured Ibayashi that even if she seemed inconsiderate at times, Sojiro was still part of her club, and she would never deceive or hurt him. Ibayashi decided to believe her and left. As he walked out, Mizuki gave him a little fortune too, saying he, like Sojiro, was destined to be with someone younger. Afterward, Sojiro stepped out of the locker. Mizuki once again told him he had a great friend, and Sojiro admitted he didn't deserve a friend like that. Then he sat down and asked Mizuki if they had ever met before, and if she liked him. Mizuki replied cryptically, reminding him that his fate was with someone younger. Sojiro told her directly that her way of acting toward the opposite gender was flawed. Still, he admitted he enjoyed the club activities and spending time with her. He even patted her head, which made her happy. But deep inside, he thought that even if she truly liked him, he couldn't just accept her feelings right now. He wanted to protect their current relationship, and if he ever did fall in love with her, he would confess properly. Otherwise, it would all feel like a joke. Suddenly, Sojiro heard Mizuki mumbling something he couldn't fully catch. When he asked about it, she simply said it was a secret, which left his heart feeling heavy. Meanwhile, in Ren's class, students were paired up to draw portraits of each other for art class. Ren's friends Ni and Mo came to chat with her. Out of nowhere, Mizuki appeared, and asked Ren to partner with her. Her sudden appearance startled Ren. Naji, on the other hand, already seemed to know Mizuki, since she was friends with UTA, a girl who had once asked Mizuki for a fortune. Ren wasn't thrilled about Mizuki's request and told her to back off. But Mizuki whispered in her ear about Sojiro, hinting that she was close with him. This made Ren curious, so she agreed to pair up with Mizuki and sent her friends away. While they drew, Ren asked what kind of relationship Mizuki had with her brother. Mizuki just said Sojiro had helped her out. She then tried to learn more about Sojiro as a brother. Ren simply said he was okay. Mizuki teased further, saying he was a good cook. Ren explained that chores were split at home, and cooking was just Sojiro's share. Mizuki then teased Ren again, saying she should call her Oni-chan. Ren snapped, annoyed, and told her to shut up and draw, but Mizuki revealed she was already done and showed Ren her portrait. Ren was shocked by how well drawn it was, but also embarrassed. The drawing showed her in an apron with her shoulder mole visible. She couldn't understand how Mizuki knew about that detail. She told Mizuki the portrait was wrong for class, so Mizuki tossed it aside. Ren muttered that Mizuki could have just given it to her instead. Hearing this, Mizuki teased her again, hugging her and calling her little sister. Ren grew flustered, not just because of Mizuki's teasing, but because of Mizuki's large chest pressing against her. Frustrated, Ren squeezed one of them, realizing her brother might have been enchanted by Mizuki's assets. Mizuki told Ren not to worry. Sojiro was aware of his own limits and was always kind. As Ren listened, her eyes drifted to the burn scar on her hand. She remembered when she was little, trying to cook for the family while their mother was busy with work and chores. She had ended up burning her hand, and it was Sojiro, still a child himself, who rushed her to the hospital and comforted her. Ever since then, Sojiro had taken over cooking to protect his little sister. Before leaving, Mizuki asked Ren to keep her true identity a secret from Sojiro. Class ended soon after, and once Mizuki left, Mo and Naji came over to ask Ren how it went. Ren simply said Mizuki was a weird girl, but not a bad person. That night, Sojiro came home. Ren almost asked him if he knew Mizuki, but stopped herself, remembering her promise. Instead, she warned him to avoid women with large chests. Sojiro replied that if he had a girlfriend, he would rather have one with a good personality. Later, Mizuki dressed up as Kirin, a Japanese fox goddess. She had borrowed the costume from their club advisor, Tsukimi, and wanted someone to roleplay with. Sojiro refused immediately. He wasn't good with scary stuff, but Mizuki insisted. When he still refused, she blackmailed him, saying if he wouldn't play along, he'd have to undress her cosplay. Fearing he'd end up in jail, Sojiro reluctantly agreed. They performed the ritual together, chanting as Mizuki placed a coin on the board. To Sojiro's shock, the coin began moving. Mizuki calmly said it was just a low-class spirit. She suggested Sojiro ask it something. Nervously, he asked the most important question he could think of. What did Mizuki have for dinner last night? The coin spelled out diet supplements since Mizuki couldn't cook. This angered her, so to get revenge, she asked the spirit about Sojiro's first love. The board spelled out Rie. Mizuki teased him, but Sojiro explained Rie was his kindergarten teacher. Curious, he asked if Mizuki wanted to know more, but she refused. Sojiro didn't believe her, so he asked the spirit if Mizuki was interested in Rie-sensei. The spirit said no, which killed his excitement. Mizuki admitted she didn't care about the past, except this one time she did lie about not being curious. Finally, Mizuki asked the spirit how to get rid of curses. Hearing this, Sojiro panicked, begging her to stop before they got cursed. But it was too late. Suddenly, a shock went through their bodies. Mizuki brushed it off as static electricity, but Sojiro was terrified, convinced they were doomed. Things got worse when the board ripped apart on its own. Even Mizuki felt uneasy now. Then came a loud bang on the door. Moments later, it flew off its hinges and Tsukimi entered, asking what they had been up to. Relieved, Mizuki ran to hug her. Sojiro, however, had already fainted from fear. Mizuki gave him a lap pillow until he woke up. While he slept, she admitted she had lied earlier. She actually had been curious about Rie, even though she normally didn't care about the past. Suddenly, she got an idea and asked Tsukimi if she had a marker. The eccentric teacher happened to have one in her pocket. Mizuki took it and wrote her own name on Sojiro's face, claiming she was marking her territory. One day, Sojiro asked Mizuki if she had made any friends yet. She answered with a firm no. When he asked why, he suggested it might be because her serious face scared people, even if she was beautiful. Mizuki took offense at first, but Sojiro explained that when a cute girl looks at others too seriously, it makes her intimidating. She replied it wasn't her fault she was born beautiful. Sojiro decided not to press further, but he thought to himself that Mizuki really needed friends. Otherwise, her strange behavior would never change. Mizuki then asked what she should do to fix her expression. Sojiro told her to smile more. She tried, but the result was terrifying. Sojiro begged her never to make that face again. Mizuki then had another idea. If she couldn't fix her smile, maybe Sojiro could do it for her. Hesitant at first, he eventually tried to shape her face into a natural smile. The outcome was still awful, but Mizuki burst into laughter. Then, at last, she smiled brightly on her own. This time, her genuine smile struck Sojiro straight in the heart. He told her that if she could smile like that on purpose, she would become a living goddess. But Mizuki said that wasn't what she wanted. She didn't need worshippers. She just wanted real friends. Seeing Sojiro's serious expression, Mizuki asked if he liked her smile. But to him, that wasn't the point. It was just training to help her make friends. Still, Mizuki wondered if having many friends really mattered. Maybe it would be better to have just one person who cared deeply about her, referring to Sojiro. She asked him which version of her he liked best. Sojiro answered honestly. He liked her just the way she was now. This made Mizuki blush. She promised she would try to be less scary from now on, and Sojiro encouraged her. Later that day, during class, Mo came to collect Japanese history notebooks. Mizuki handed hers over and, remembering her talk with Sojiro, gave Mo a bright smile and thanked her for her hard work. The sudden change made Mo's heart skip a beat, and she rushed off. Mizuki thought her attempt had failed, not realizing she had actually succeeded. Meanwhile, across the classroom, a short-haired girl sat watching Mizuki while tightly clutching her skirt. Another day, Sojiro and Ibayashi were on cleaning duty. After sweeping, Sojiro went to throw out the trash, asking Ibayashi to replace the bag. At the disposal area, he noticed a lonely-looking girl. At first, he thought to ignore her, but hearing her quietly sob, he couldn't leave her alone. He offered his handkerchief and asked if she was okay. If she was sick, he said, he could take her to the infirmary. The girl turned out to be the same one who had been staring earlier. Suspicious of his kindness, she asked if he was hitting on her. Of course, Sojiro wasn't. He just sat beside her to keep her company. She found it unusual for a boy to carry a handkerchief. Sojiro explained that he had a troublesome senpai who often got into dangerous situations, so he kept one with him just in case. She noticed the Nezu mascot on the handkerchief, a fortune-telling character often seen on the news. Her mood changed instantly. She said she hated fortune tellers, calling them lowlives who prey on fears and give meaningless sugar-coated words. Her bitterness made Sojiro wonder if she had been scammed into buying a magical vase or something. But she hadn't. Sojiro said he didn't think fortune-telling was that bad. It was fine to feel happy when receiving good news. But the girl countered, what if the fortune was bad? Slowly, Sojiro pieced things together. She wasn't sick. She was heartbroken. His sharp deductions startled her, and she accused him of being a stalker. Eventually, she opened up. She liked a boy who was brash but kind. They were close like family, and even the boy's mother had asked her to look after him. She thought they would go to the same school again, but when she arrived, she learned he already had someone else in his life. Sojiro zoned out through part of her story, but eventually introduced himself properly. Hearing his family name, the girl realized who he was. Before leaving, Sojiro told her that if she wanted advice, there was a good place for it, the club on the second floor. He left his handkerchief with her and returned to class. Later, the girl went back to her own class, where she ran into Ren. She immediately realized that the boy she met earlier was Ren's brother. Finally, the girl was revealed to be Yuta, the same one Mizuki had once given a harsh fortune to. Soon, Yuta visited the divination club. She wasn't happy to be there, but came to return the handkerchief. Inside, she found two people arguing over sumo, specifically that you're supposed to push your opponent out of the ring, not pee on them. Confused, Yuta spotted Mizuki, which shocked her even more. Then she heard Sojiro call Mizuki-senpai, which Mizuki quickly signaled her to keep quiet about. Yuta remembered Mizuki's brutal fortune, telling her she'd need plastic surgery if she wanted a chance with her crush. She knew it wasn't entirely Mizuki's fault, but she still wanted payback, so she put on a cute act in front of Sojiro, thanking him sweetly for his advice, and suggesting she might come back for more help. Then she skipped out, teasing Mizuki by sticking out her tongue. Mizuki was left speechless. She had just watched someone try to steal her territory. But since Sojiro didn't really understand what had just happened, Mizuki could only grumble that Uta's behavior wasn't right. One day, Sojiro was riding the train home. Beside him, some girls were chatting about boyfriend. They said it felt weird to let their boyfriend treat them if he didn't even have a part-time job. It was like taking money from his parents. Hearing this made Sojiro uneasy. After all, Mizuki's situation was already complicated. The next day, he went to the club room early. Mizuki arrived and was surprised to see him there before her. Sojiro explained that homeroom ended early, so he had some free time. She noticed the magazine in his hands and asked what it was. He told her he was looking at part-time jobs. Immediately, Mizuki declared that part-time jobs were banned in her club. Sojiro was confused. He knew the 3 silly rules about spoiling, obeying, and fawning over Mizuki, but this rule was new to him. Mizuki then asked if there was something he wanted to buy, insisting she could just get it for him. But Sojiro shook his head. He scolded her gently, saying she should manage her money better since she lived alone. With blank eyes, Mizuki replied that money wasn't a problem. Thanks to her fortune-telling powers, she said the future became the present, and the present became the past. If she wanted something, she could make it happen. Well, except for Sojiro himself. Sojiro still refused. He wanted to earn things with his own effort. Mizuki quickly admitted she was joking, mostly. Then she had an idea. He could just work at her house, and she'd pay him any rate he wanted. But Sojiro explained why he wanted a job. He wanted to save up for summer, so they could go out together. As a man, he wanted to pay for Mizuki's share, too. Hearing this, Mizuki blushed bright red. She was flustered but happy. She told him that only Sojiro would think of doing something like that for her. Sojiro said she could expect even more in the future. Finally, Mizuki agreed to let him get a job, though she was a little sad it would take time away from the club. Sojiro reassured her he would only work weekends. That meant he'd have no days off, but he didn't mind. Mizuki, still trying to sway him, suggested again that he just work for her. He wouldn't have to do anything weird, just share a meal with her for 30,000 yen. But instead of being tempted, Sojiro sulked, feeling unreliable. This triggered Mizuki's teasing side. Out of nowhere, she grabbed his head between her thighs and squeezed, telling him there was no need to be depressed. She could make a man out of him. Sojiro panicked, convinced she was going to do lewd things. He muttered that Mizuki had no sense of chastity. Offended, she kicked him, insisting she wasn't like that. It wasn't as if she'd do such things with anyone. But by then, Sojiro had already passed out from the squeeze, ascending dramatically into the afterlife. Meanwhile, Ren was out at karaoke with her friends. Mo struggled to separate the drinks because Naji had mixed them up, and she couldn't handle fizzy ones. Naji teased her, asking if she had superpowers. Mo sarcastically answered that she was an Esper. That led the group to talk about Espers in general. Someone mentioned there was an Esper around their age who had appeared on TV recently, though they couldn't remember his name. Suddenly, UTA barged in, annoyed that she was the only one actually singing. Everyone ignored her question and shifted the conversation to chasing happiness instead. Back at the club room, Mizuki and Sojiro were working on her Make Friends plan. This time it meant creating a social media profile. Sojiro explained that depending on how she used it, it could help her succeed. But Mizuki wasn't serious. She put her name down as Tanaka. Not terrible, but clearly fake. Next, they worked on her bio. Sojiro asked if she had any talents or strong points. Mizuki smirked and said she had her mommy milkers. Obviously, they couldn't write that. So Sojiro pressured her to just put fortune-telling. Mizuki, distracted, accidentally typed breast divinations. After fixing that, they moved on to the profile picture. Mizuki claimed she had the perfect one in mind. Sojiro reminded her it couldn't show her chest. She swore she wasn't going to, but her body language betrayed her. Still, she insisted it was fine. Then she showed him the picture. Mizuki in casual clothes, her figure fully on display. Sojiro froze, completely flustered. The only words that escaped his mouth were his true feelings. He wanted that picture. Even though Sojiro wanted the picture of Mizuki, he held back like the good boy he was. Mizuki teased him, saying that holding back was bad for his body. In the end, she just set a picture of Hauge as her profile icon. The account looked like a total spam profile anyway. They made their first post. Mizuki commented that each step they took made things look sloppier and sloppier. At karaoke, Ren was scrolling through her phone and spotted the new account. She asked Rai if it belonged to her brother, but before Rai could answer, Naji and Mo swarmed her with questions about him. Rai explained that he was a second-year student at their school, basically their senpai. Meanwhile, UTA checked the profile. It only had one follower, Sojiro, and the only post was about accurate fortune-telling. Without hesitation, UTA blocked it. Back at the club room, Mizuki panicked when she realized she'd been blocked. She told Sojiro, who suggested maybe the person just blocked anyone named Tanaka. Mizuki thought maybe she should change her name. At karaoke, Mo finally remembered the name of the Esper boy they'd mentioned earlier. It was Namazu. But when UTA heard the name, she covered her ears and started making loud noises to avoid hearing anything about fortune-telling. The girls tried to calm her down, but she burst into tears remembering her depression. They handed her the mic so she could sing her sadness away. Meanwhile, Mizuki changed her online name to Namazu, revealing herself as the Esper Boy.
Hey guys, sorry for mid-editing, but I noticed a lot of you are watching my videos without subscribing. Our subscribe ratio is literally close to 0. I'd really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button. It helps a lot. Thanks. Now, back to the recap.
One day after school, Sojiro headed to the club room, humming along the way. As he approached, he heard a voice. Peeking inside, he saw Mizuki trying to close the tall transom windows but struggling to reach them. Sojiro walked over to help. He remarked on how small she really was. Mizuki misunderstood, thinking he was talking about her chest size. Sojiro clarified he meant her height. But before they could settle it, one of her blouse buttons popped off and hit him in the face. Mizuki proudly declared it proved her bigness. Seeing her chest peek out, Sojiro quickly took off his shirt and handed it to her, telling her to change inside while he sewed her button back on. Mizuki eagerly started stripping right there, but Sojiro stopped her midway and pushed her into the club room to change. He also closed the windows for her, earning her cheerful applause. Sojiro pulled out a sewing kit from his bag. It had just enough thread for the job. He fixed her blouse quickly. Mizuki came back out wearing his oversized shirt, her curves clearly showing. Embarrassed, Sojiro averted his eyes and told her to button up, but Mizuki leaned close, teasing him, asking if her blouse was ready. He revealed it was already done. Impressed by his speed, Mizuki asked if sewing was his specialty. Sojiro shrugged it off as a small task. Wanting his shirt back, he asked her to return it. But Mizuki refused, claiming the shirt was hers now. Even when he pleaded, she playfully said if he wanted it back, he'd have to take it off her by force. Of course, Sojiro didn't dare. Mizuki kept teasing, finally offering her own blouse in exchange. Against his will, she forced him into it. The blouse was skin-tight. The fabric stretched, and in a second, all the buttons popped off. Mizuki burst into laughter, telling him there was no way he could wear that home. Broken and humiliated, Sojiro collapsed in despair. Mizuki crouched beside him, laughing, and declared that he would never be able to win against her. A few days later at lunchtime, Sojiro realized he had accidentally taken Rai's lunchbox instead of his own. Ibayashi was shocked at how huge it was, 4 times the size of his. Sojiro explained they had both rushed to school, so the boxes got mixed up. He went to Rai's classroom to exchange it. Embarrassed, Rai asked why he came, but Sojiro joked around. He handed her lunchbox back and asked for his, but Rai was confused. She hadn't eaten it. Sojiro panicked, thinking she had already finished his entire meal. Rai brushed it off, still having room to eat her gigantic lunch anyway. They bickered, catching the attention of Mo and UTA. Mo noted how tall Sojiro was, though she couldn't see his face clearly. UTA suddenly stood and walked over. She offered her own lunch to Sojiro. Ren was surprised and asked if she knew her brother. UTA admitted they weren't properly introduced yet, but confirmed they knew each other. She explained she'd had home economics earlier and wasn't hungry, so Hiro accepted her lunch, thanking her. Ren watched their chemistry and got an idea. Sojiro then suggested they share the lunch at the club room. It would be fun with Mizuki there too. UTA tried to back out, but Ren insisted, pushing her along with Sojiro toward the divination club. Back in class, Ren returned to her seat, thinking that if she were going to have a big sister, she'd rather it be UTA than Mizuki. Meanwhile, Sojiro and UTA arrived at the club room and began splitting the lunch between them. Mizuki sat nearby, growing increasingly jealous of their chemistry. Furious, she demanded to know what they were doing. Sojiro explained that since Ren accidentally swapped their lunches, UTA had kindly offered to share hers. He thought they could eat while also doing some club activities. UTA then jumped in, asking Mizuki if it was true she could predict someone's destined partner. Mizuki agreed, but before she could start, Sojiro took a bite of Yuta's cooking and was amazed at the taste. He asked if she made it herself, and she nodded, saying she had lots of practice. Seeing their easy back and forth, Mizuki pouted and refused to read Yuta's fortune. She scolded Sojiro for only paying attention to UTA, but Sojiro calmly reminded her that it was just basic manners. Yuta was their guest. Realizing this, Mizuki returned to normal and agreed to give UTA her fortune. Still, Mizuki wasn't happy with how close the two were sitting, so she demanded they move apart. But UTA flatly refused. Sojiro sighed, wondering if these two would ever get along when he thought they could. Then UTA asked Sojiro if he knew who his destined partner was. Mizuki quickly answered that fate had already chosen her for him. UTA smirked and teased, asking if Sojiro really preferred younger girls, but Sojiro shook his head. With Ren as his younger sister, dating a younger girl would just feel like he was dealing with another sibling. Hearing this, UTA quietly mocked Mizuki, who grew irritated and insisted that her fortunes were absolute. The tension rose, but Sojiro stepped in. He gently massaged Mizuki's head, telling her to calm down. He reminded her she was talking to someone 3 years younger. This surprised UTA. She laughed, explaining that Mizuki wasn't even pretending to be a third year. She was acting more like a fourth year, someone almost old enough to drink. Mizuki fumed while UTA laughed harder. To defuse it, Sojiro walked over and patted Yuta's head too, telling her it takes two to start a fight. UTA stared at him blankly, thinking he was kind of a weirdo, and for once, Mizuki agreed with her. After noon, Sojiro walked into the clubroom only to find Mizuki crouched over Mo, who was unconscious on the floor. Sojiro gave a nervous laugh and asked what the heck she was doing. Mizuki played dumb, claiming that Mo had suddenly started talking to her and then collapsed, so she was helping her by stripping her. Sojiro was completely baffled at the logic. What did fainting have to do with getting undressed? But Mizuki ignored his concerns and rambled about how she'd always been interested in girls' underwear. She proudly pulled out Mo's bra. Horrified, Sojiro told her to put it back immediately, but Mizuki, being Mizuki, placed it on top of his head instead. Sojiro froze, realizing something bad was about to happen. He panicked at the idea of having a bra on his head, but Mizuki teased him further, claiming that while Mo was big, she was still nothing compared to her. Then Mizuki got one of her brilliant ideas. She pulled out a pair of panties and plopped them on his head too, making him look like a total pervert. Sojiro was on the verge of breaking down. He asked if the unconscious Mo was now defenseless, both above and below, but Mizuki simply announced she was going to fetch their club advisor and walked out, leaving him alone with Mo. Seeing the poor girl half-stripped on the floor, Sojiro felt sympathetic. He gently covered her with his blazer. At that moment, Mo opened her eyes and sat up, immediately noticing a strange guy sitting in front of her. She nervously asked who he was. Sojiro, panicking, tried to cover his eyes, but in his rush, he accidentally used her bra as a blindfold. Mo froze, confused at the bizarre sight. Then, as she focused more closely on him, she started to realize who this boy really was. Mo grew fearful and disgusted, asking if Sojiro was some kind of pervert. She even questioned what on earth he had done to her while she was asleep. Sojiro frantically denied everything, insisting there was an explanation. But then Mo noticed something worse. There was a pair of panties stuck on Sojiro's head. Her face turned beet red as she hurried to cover herself out of embarrassment. At that moment, the clubroom door opened and Mizuki walked in. She explained that Tsumugi wasn't available, then pretended to be clueless about what was going on. To Sojiro's horror, she condemned him as a pervert too, leaving him to wonder why even Mizuki had forsaken him. Mo was surprised to see Mizuki there, but Mizuki whispered for her to keep her real identity secret. Eventually, the misunderstanding was cleared up, and Mo asked for her underwear back. Sojiro quickly returned it, but then Mo froze. She was still wearing her own, which meant the underwear he had just given her didn't belong to her at all. Sojiro realized with a jolt that they must belong to Mizuki. When he asked, Mizuki didn't confirm or deny it. Instead, she smirked and told him to find out for himself. Completely thrown off, Sojiro was left confused, clueless, and certain that Mo was the biggest victim in this bizarre mess. One day after school, Sojiro was heading home with Mizuki. As they walked toward the school gate, he dropped his bag and a bundle of fireworks spilled out. Mizuki's eyes widened. She asked where he got them, and Sojiro explained that Yuashi had given them to him. That only made Mizuki more suspicious, wondering why Yuashi always handed out things that appealed to kids. Sojiro then asked if Mizuki liked firework. She admitted she hated them, but Sojiro, determined, said that since they had them already, they might as well try them out. Mizuki reminded him that the nearby riverbank didn't allow firework. That's when Sojiro had an ingenious idea. Why not set them off at his place? The suggestion left Mizuki wide-eyed and speechless. Eventually, they reached the Sakagami household. At the door, Sojiro told Mizuki to wait while he went to change clothes. Ren greeted him, warning him to be careful, because UTA was here. Despite the warning, Sojiro stumbled straight into the bathroom, only to find UTA fresh out of the bath. Startled, he froze, shocked that things like this actually happened in real life. Almost instantly, he shut the door as if trying to erase what he had just seen. Outside, Mizuki sat waiting while Ren scolded her brother for barging in on UTA. UTA, embarrassed and blushing, still tried to defend Sojiro, saying he didn't know. Sojiro bowed, apologizing to UTA and admitting he had no excuse. As a token of apology, he invited both her and Ren to join the fireworks display. Mizuki, overhearing this, asked why UTA was even there. Ren explained that some things had happened, so she lent their bath to her. Then Ren turned the question back on Mizuki, asking why she was there. Mizuki, being cheeky and non-compliant, claimed it was her house. Ren instantly denied it. Later, as they all sat on the porch chatting, Ren suddenly asked Mizuki if she liked her brother. Mizuki paused, uncertain. She said she didn't really care how other people defined emotions. This annoyed Ren, but Mizuki went on, saying that sometimes, when she looked at Sohiro, she felt excited, or something like that. Ren snapped, declaring that was just lust. Mizuki countered that it was something pure. Their bickering grew into a noisy commotion, until Sohiro walked over and handed Mizuki some of the fireworks. Mizuki asked if they weren't saving them for night, but Sojiro said no. It would be too dangerous for her to go home alone that late. But Mizuki casually mentioned she didn't plan on going home at all that night. This startled Sojiro and made Ren even angrier. Ren told Mizuki to leave right away and announced that UTA would be staying over. UTA was just as shocked, since she hadn't been told this, but Ren insisted. Their mother, overhearing, gave Ren permission. Out of spite, Mizuki also asked for permission to stay, and surprisingly she got it too. Sojiro was left stunned by all the side plans, but in the end he had no authority to stop his sister's friends from staying over. He told himself it would be fine as long as he avoided walking in on anyone again and kept them all out of his room. But deep down, he knew it was already a hopeless situation. Almost immediately, Mizuki goes into Sohiro's room and starts searching for his adult magazine. Meanwhile, UTA comments on how his room smells like him, while Ren jokes that it stinks just like her brother. Feeling a bit hurt, Sojiro turns to Mizuki for comfort, asking if she thinks his room smells too, but she's already fast asleep in his bed. When he checks on her, he's left shocked to see that she's exposed. Sojiro has now failed in both of his goals, keeping the girls out of his room and avoiding seeing them exposed. Later that evening, everyone gathers for dinner. Ren helped with the cooking, explaining that it was the least she could do since they were letting UTA stay over. As a jab at Mizuki, she points out that she could never sleep while the host prepared food. Their mother joins in too, complimenting Yuta's cooking, which leaves her flustered. Mizuki suddenly stands up and insists on helping with the cleanup. She and Sojiro wash dishes together in the kitchen, while the Sakagami mother watches them. Once night falls, it's finally time for fireworks. On the porch, Sojiro reminds Mizuki that she once said she hated fireworks, but she still decides to join in. Before they start, the mother calls Mizuki inside to talk. Outside, Ren suggests they light a large shell-type firework, the kind that explodes into stars, but Sojiro refuses since it's too dangerous in a residential area. UTA hands him a water bucket, and impressed by her thoughtfulness, he asks if she's an only child. She admits she is, but says she once had someone like an older brother, until another woman took him away. This puts her in a sour mood, so Sojiro calls Ren over to cheer her up. Meanwhile, Sojiro wonders what Mizuki and his mom are talking about. He remembers that Mizuki's parents don't live with her, and realizes he doesn't actually know much about her life. Whenever he tries asking, she dodges the question. Soon after, Ren and UTA begin lighting smaller fireworks, while Sojiro waits on the porch for Mizuki to return. When she finally comes back, they sit together, and she compliments his family for being so kind. Sohiro asks what her own parents are like, and she bluntly says they're scumbags who abandoned her with money to live on. Because of this, she hasn't been close to anyone, not even family, and that's why she hates fireworks. They can't be enjoyed alone. Sojiro reassures her, saying she's not alone anymore. She has him now. Her heart skips at his words, but he doesn't stop there. He suggests they celebrate by lighting the big shell firework together. Helping her up, he sets it off with her, and the explosion lights the sky. Ren mutters that it was smaller than she expected, while Sojiro is startled by how loud it was. Their mother storms out, scolding him and telling him to apologize to the neighbors. Mizuki stays behind, staring at the empty sky, quietly moved by both the fireworks and Sohiro's words. That night, Mizuki recalls a memory with her grandmother. As a child, she once complained that she'd rather watch videos than see fireworks in person, claiming she could just watch them anytime on her phone. Her grandmother scolded her gently, saying the important thing wasn't the fireworks themselves, but who you shared them with. Back then, young Mizuki didn't understand, but now with time, she finally does. A few years later, when Mizuki was in middle school, she remembered watching a fireworks display from her apartment window. She wasn't interested though and quickly closed the curtains. Back in the present, Ren is left puzzled when UKA, who already stole her pajamas, says she wants to sleep in her room. Mizuki's first choice was Sohiro's room, but he refused. Hearing this, Ren gets mad and tells her to sleep in the hallway instead. UTA, who's also present, asks if she should sleep in the hallway too, but Ren, being the kinder one, says UTA can just share her bed. Mizuki, however, still wants a bed of her own, and Ren just wants her pajamas back. As Ren tries to wrestle her clothes back, UTA watches the two bicker with an intense stare. Ren notices and asks what's wrong. UTA replies that she was just thinking about how much she hates women, or maybe just some women. Mizuki quickly takes the hint and gets confrontational, saying she doesn't mind fighting UTA if it comes to that. She even throws a few warm-up punches. Ren, annoyed, asks why Mizuki always has a habit of wearing other people's clothes bare-bodied. Mizuki shamelessly replies that she's just following her huge mommy milker and letting them grow freely. Seeing Ren holding UKA back, UTA takes her chance. She tells Ren to keep holding UKA, saying victory comes to the one who strikes first and hardest. She even grabs a pen, ready to fight. Soon the two begin tussling, creating such a commotion that Sojiro is forced to show up at Ren's room. He tells them to keep it down, which only makes Ren more irritated since she wasn't the one causing the chaos. Still, Sojiro's warning breaks up and UTA apologizes to Ren. But things don't end there. Mizuki suddenly asks UTA how she feels about Sojiro. UTA bristles, demanding why she should have to say anything like that. Ren, however, is also curious, and after a bit of juice drinking, UTA opens up. She explains that she once liked Ryu, her childhood friend, but he suddenly got a girlfriend without telling her. Mizuki isn't interested in this story, saying that if UTA wanted to change her fate, she should have had the resolve to do so. Ren presses further, asking what UTA thinks of her brother. UTA admits she doesn't feel anything special about Sojiro, but Ren doesn't let it drop. She then asks how UTA felt when he accidentally saw her nude. Mizuki is shocked to learn this happened, calling UTA a thought, and points out that even she's only gone as far as PG-13, never R-rated. Blushing, UTA insists that Sojiro didn't seem to think much of it, so she doesn't want to make it a big deal. Mizuki isn't happy with Yuta's flustered face and grabs her by the cheeks. Ren then asks why Mizuki even cares, since she always says she doesn't like Sojiro. Mizuki goes red and mutters that maybe things have changed since that conversation. Seeing her reaction, UTA smirks and starts teasing, saying maybe she should just take Sojiro for herself. This sparks another scuffle between the two, and they end up grappling late into the night. Ren decides she's had enough and goes to sleep while they continue fighting. The next morning, Sojiro wakes up early and makes breakfast for everyone. When he goes to wake the girls, he finds them all sleeping on the floor together. With that, the sleepover comes to an end, and everyone returns home. A few days later, Mizuki is in the club room putting things away when she suddenly remembers Sojiro's words on the night of the fireworks. His face flashes in her mind, and she starts blushing. Just then, Sojiro sneaks up from behind and asks if she needs help. Startled, Mizuki stumbles backward, drops a vial, and breaks it. Although Sojiro manages to catch Mizuki before she gets hurt, the vial still breaks. He asks how she can drop things so easily despite the gorilla grip strength she's known for. Mizuki, however, is too flustered by his closeness and tells him to let her go. Sojiro heads over to grab the cleaning supplies while asking what she was doing in the first place. Mizuki explains that their club advisor, Toimi, had given her some things to put away in the mysterious cabinet. But now the vial is broken, and the strange fluff inside it has rolled onto the floor. Picking it up, Mizuki proudly declares that it's a Kazaran Pasaran, a yokai from Japanese folklore. At first, Sojiro doubts her, but suddenly does a 180, acting like she's a little kid. Annoyed, Mizuki scolds him, asking if she really looks like a child who would believe in such myths. Still, she insists this fluff really is a Kazaran Pasaran. When Sojiro touches it, he notices it feels warm, just as the legends say. The two panic a little before admitting it must really be a yokai. They put it on the table, and Sojiro wonders aloud what it eats. Mizuki quickly searches her phone and finds that it feeds on face powder. Since he obviously doesn't have any, Sojiro pokes a stick at it and offers it instead. To their surprise, the fluff devours it. Meanwhile, Mizuki keeps sneaking glances at Sojiro, her face growing redder and redder. When he notices and looks directly at her, she gets even more flustered. Trying to lighten the mood, Sojiro says he hopes something good happens, since finding a Kazaran Pasaran is supposed to bring happiness. Mizuki boldly puffs out her chest and says she can make him happy. Sojiro, unsettled, calls her out for acting weird. Mizuki then mutters that maybe she's growing an extra heart or something, and even starts feeling around her chest in confusion. Embarrassed, she asks Sojiro to check for her. For a moment, he almost agrees before quickly snapping back to his senses and refusing. Just then, they notice the Kazaran Pasaran has already eaten the stick, but their amazement is cut short when Toimi suddenly shows up behind them. Mizuki quickly claims responsibility, saying she'll raise the fluff as her own in the club room. The advisor firmly denies this, insisting it's not a yokai at all. Sojiro tries to argue, pointing out that it literally ate a stick, but Toimi's weary look shuts him up. She tells them it's best for ordinary people to stay away if this thing really is a yokai. Mizuki looks sad as Toimi takes it away, but the advisor casually tells her to go play with Sojiro's hair instead. Flustered, Mizuki actually does it, roughing up his head until both of them turn red. Toimi then asks if Sojiro fed the fluff anything, which makes the two of them freeze in embarrassment. Mizuki, trying to cover it up, blurts out, "So, how many hearts do I even have?" But Sojiro hadn't noticed anything strange, except maybe how soft the sensation really was. Sometime later, Sojiro finds himself buried in sand at the beach, courtesy of Mizuki, who is cackling as she builds a sand pole over him. From his awkward position, he can't help but end up staring at her from behind, wondering how he got into this ridiculous situation. It all started earlier that morning when Mizuki showed up at the Sakagami household. While Sojiro was still asleep, she slipped right into his bed. He woke up to find Mizuki lying beside him, smiling. Without hesitation, she announced that she wanted to go to the beach since it was a holiday. However, the half-asleep Sojiro simply pulls the blanket back over himself and drifts off again, leaving Mizuki feeling ignored. When he finally wakes up for real, he's shocked and panicked to see Mizuki still in his bed. He quickly apologizes, explaining that he was half asleep earlier, but Mizuki, red-faced, blurts out that she just wanted to go to the beach. Hearing this, Sojiro declares that he loves the beach and insists they should go. Just as he says so, Ren bursts into the room, already prepared. She announces she'll call UTA to join them too, since Mo and Naji are busy today. Mizuki tries to stop her, but Ren doesn't listen. Meanwhile, as Sojiro digs around for his swimsuit, he stumbles upon a small Ziploc bag with something inside, something he doesn't even remember owning. For a moment, he wonders if this is all some kind of hallucination, like he's on an acid trip, but he shakes the thought away. Back at the beach, Mizuki's sand creation is completely overshadowed by the real thing towering before them. She stares up at it, speechless, then begins measuring it against her own body, muttering that anything bigger won't fit. Sojiro hurriedly tells her to stop with the explicit talk. Suddenly, UTA smacks Mizuki on the head, scolding her for being obscene. This sparks another fight between the two, and Sojiro tries his best to calm them down, despite being stuck and unable to move. He asks UTA where Ren went, and UTA explains she's participating in a food-eating challenge to win some prize money. Before long, Ren comes back victorious, carrying the spoils of her win. Mizuki is stunned at how so much food could fit in Ren's small frame. Without hesitation, Ren frees Sojiro and pulls him away, leaving Mizuki and UTA alone, and predictably, they start bickering again. Meanwhile, Sojiro worries about leaving them unsupervised, but Ren reassures him that their relationship has actually improved. She even says she saw them holding a normal conversation at school the other day. Still, Sojiro is confused. He still believes Mizuki is his senpai, but Ren casually lets slip that Mizuki is actually in the same class. Realizing her mistake, Ren quickly shifts into her spoiled little sister act, trying to monopolize her brother's attention and make him forget what she just revealed. Back with the girls, Mizuki and UTA are catching their breath from their squabble when two random guys approach, trying to hit on them. Mizuki instantly curses them out and drives them away, leaving them in tears. She then pointedly asks UTA if she's fine with anyone picking her up now that she's been dumped. UTA replies bitterly that it doesn't matter. Her beloved is already out of reach. Mizuki, more serious now, warns her to be careful, or else she'll end up with a sleazy guy. But UTA quickly flips it back, saying Mizuki is the lucky one. After all, Mizuki's destined partner is Sojiro. But Mizuki shakes her head. She explains that Sojiro's true partner might be someone like Yuta, someone who naturally initiates contact and builds connections. After all, UTA was the one who met him by chance, and sometimes that makes the bond stronger. Stunned, UTA asks why Mizuki tries so hard then. Mizuki, her eyes burning with determination, proclaims that she loves him. That's why she won't give up. Fate or no fate. Hearing this, UTA is taken aback, but begins to empathize. Wanting to ease the tension, she mischievously reaches out to check Mizuki's chest, and the two start fooling around. Just then, Sojiro returns, carrying Ren, who, after overeating, is completely out of commission. He sets her down gently, then gives Mizuki a sharp, suspicious glare. Trying to brush it off, Sojiro suggests they all enjoy the beach some more while they're here. But the moment he says this, dark clouds gather overhead. A sudden rainstorm crashes down, drenching them all. The group finds themselves stranded on the beach, huddling together as the heavy downpour continues. There, UTA checks her phone and learns that all the trains have stopped. That means they're stranded. As they all sit around trying to figure out what to do, the restaurant owner tells them to leave since the place is closing. To stall for time, Ren tries to order some squid, but the owner refuses, saying that her appetite wouldn't be satisfied by something so small. Frustrated, Sojiro says that if they can't leave and the trains aren't running, then the only option is to wait quietly for death. Hearing this, the owner comes up with an idea. He offers to give them a ride to a nearby inn run by his friend. But there's one problem. None of them have money. Or so they think. Luckily, Ren had just won prize money from the eating contest earlier. The same prize that came out of the restaurant owner's pocket for his living expenses this month. Using that, they managed to get dropped off at the inn. When they arrive, Sojiro worries whether they'll even be allowed to stay, considering they're just high school students. But before he can overthink it, a creepy old man greets them. He explains that the inn isn't open today, but he can't just ignore people in need. Out of kindness, he offers them one room to share. Grateful, they all accept. The room has an open-air bath, which excites Ren. She wants to jump in immediately, but since it's still pouring rain, Sojiro points out she'd just get soaked again. So instead, she decides to take a regular bath, dragging UTA and Mizuki along. While they head off, Sojiro stays behind, still thinking about Ren's careless slip at the beach earlier. Meanwhile, in the bath, Ren apologizes to Mizuki for accidentally letting her real age slip. But Mizuki doesn't look angry at all. In fact, she says it was bound to come out eventually. To cheer her up, Ren tells Mizuki that her brother doesn't really seem interested in older girls anyway. She even recalls that he once brought home a girl the same grade as him. This worries Mizuki, but Ren reassures her that she still has a good shot. Soon after, Ren leaves the bath, followed by UTA and Mizuki. But as she steps out, she suddenly comes face to face with Sojiro, completely naked, about to take a bath himself. Before he can react, Mizuki and UTA exit as well, bickering as usual, only to be confronted with the sight of Sojiro and his Excalibur. The two girls freeze in shock, then scream loudly. Later, back in the room, Sojiro sits flustered and embarrassed, while the girls act far too calm for his liking. Their nonchalance only confuses him further. Instead of being embarrassed, UTA and Mizuki seem more amazed by Sojiro's sword, leaving him even more unsettled. Seeing his reaction, the girls begin teasing him, pointing out how it doesn't look very happy, even after seeing them exposed. Pushing things further, UTA wonders aloud if maybe it would perk up if they showed him more. She even begins measuring his pole against her body, like Mizuki had jokingly done back at the beach. Completely overwhelmed, Sojiro begs Ren to stop her friend, but Ren only mocks him, calling him the corrupting giant PP man. Trapped and desperate, Sojiro comes up with the only solution he can think of, falling asleep. In an instant, he drifts into slumberland, leaving the girls behind. Ren smirks, saying this is the perfect opportunity. Apparently, Sojiro won't wake up no matter what, giving Mizuki and UTA the chance to take things further, but both of them refuse, unwilling to cross that line. And so the night passes uneventfully. Late at night, Sojiro wakes up, momentarily confused about where he is. Then he remembers, they're at the inn. Looking around, he notices Mizuki is still awake, gazing quietly at the moon. There's a heavy silence between them, as Mizuki seems to gather her resolve. Finally, she speaks. She apologizes for everything, admitting she shouldn't have deceived him. Then, with a mix of embarrassment and sincerity, Mizuki reveals the truth. She isn't his senpai, she's actually his junior,